There have been a lot of videos this season about the horrendous racecraft and declining driving standards on iRacing. I've been on the system since late 2018, and I will agree that standards have declined and the amount of intentional or retaliation wrecks one sees is greatly increased. The real question is why. A lot of videos have been put forward on this topic, and I'm going to go through a number of contenders before giving my thought on the main reason this has happened, and even a possible fix. First up is the hot topic of the moment, Smurfs. To me, there are two types of Smurf. The main one I think of is a second account for the esports driver, who has to maintain a high and ever-increasing iRating on their main account to be able to qualify for esports series or top splits in special events. They're not allowed to have any fun or risk that at any stage, so a lot of them will have a second account to be able to be somewhat more relaxed about racing or test setups in race conditions. This would apply to something like 0.1 to 0.3% of the active population on the game. Does that sound like the problem most of us are encountering on track? Unlikely, particularly when most of those Smurf accounts are also in the top split and in the top 0.5% of iRating. Second type of Smurf is the streamer or the person aiming for that higher level, someone doing things for content, the last to first challenges, etc. This definitely does cause some issues, but again, there's a limited number of people doing this, and if they receive a ban on their Smurf due to their behaviour, that's a ban on their main account too. So not a lot of incentive to do that and jeopardise the main account. On a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being not at all a problem from a racecraft point of view, and 100 being the entire problem, I'd rate this a 3. Second, everyone's favourite excuse when there is an incident, and you'll hear it in nearly every race you're in, netcode. We've all been subject to this. We've all seen it, we've all been affected, or been the affected party. It's not fun, but the reality is there is very little we can do about this. When people are racing on completely opposite sides of the world, there is only so fast the data can travel. If anything, I would say that this has dramatically improved over time. I live in New Zealand, so I am about the furthest away from all servers possibly be. Back in 2018 to 2020, nearly every single server I was in, I had a minimum of 308 ping, and often I was racing with 350 ping. That is an absolute nightmare. Compare that to today, when I'm frequently in the low 200s and very rarely go over 250. So this has enabled me to race a lot closer with other cars and have a lot more confidence that netcode won't happen. Also, with me being where I am, I should have been greatly impacted by netcode over the years. However, the channel's resident statistician and all-round good guy and safe driving enthusiast, Justin Krasneski, has advised me that after just over 1,500 races, I average 1.42 incidents per race across all licenses and series. While I don't deny that netcode happens, and I've definitely suffered at its hands and caused others to suffer, if I can average those incidents living where I am, it's really not that much of a problem, and it's most often a lazy excuse. So on the 1 to 100 scale, I give this a 4. Third is the C word. And no, not what that Australian in your last race called you when you got within 10 car lengths of him. I'm talking about the global emergency that shut down the world in 2020. The theory is that all the new drivers that came to the game in the wake of that didn't bring their brains with them when they signed up, and it's all their fault. Sure, there's definitely been a number of people driving like they're in a Forza lobby, but it was like that pre-pandemic as well, and that's more just the expected amount of stupidity in any pool of humans. I think what it did is brought an enormous amount of new users to the game. What this flowed onto is us getting a significant amount more content, a lot more people to race against, in a game that is head and shoulders of where it was in 2019. Go back and watch old iRacing videos from that time and compare them to what it's like now. It's been transformational. This large influx of new users has by far been a positive thing for iRacing as a whole, in my opinion. While it has undoubtedly brought some bad apples, I'd suggest it's brought tens of thousands of devoted enthusiasts who have the right attitude and are an asset to us as a player base. Overall, I rate this as 0 out of 100. Fourth is the protest system. This is something that even the day one iRacing members have little real idea of how it works and where the line is for actual consequences being handed out. The fact there is a protest system is great, and theoretically should weed out the retaliatory and intentional wreckers and people that are acting against the sporting code and the spirit of what we're all trying to do. However, I know I'm not the only one that has protested that behaviour and seen old mate racing every day the next couple of weeks with seemingly no punishment handed out. Anecdotally, it feels like that happens more often than not to people who make protests. I do understand they will offer warnings and coaching to drivers to get them to improve and be a good member, and that even a short ban seems to be a last resort. To a certain extent I can live with this, but when you see some of the egregious stuff I have seen and you know that person carries on and does the same thing next week, it can be frustrating. I am aware that iRacing receive 1,000 protests a day per numbers they disclosed. I'd be fairly certain a reasonable percentage of these are frivolous and without merit, just people protesting because they are an incident. Yes, racing incidents happen. The protest system is there purely for the worst of the worst. However, a combination of the lack of understanding on what is and isn't protestable, and a lack of understanding on what the punishments are, what happens as a result of our protests, does cause some of the racecraft issues. Knowing what percent of protests are upheld, what percent result in someone getting a short ban, or getting a repeat ban or an indefinite ban, these sort of stats would greatly help the understanding of the user base. Overall, I'd give this a rating of 15 out of 100. It definitely leads to people being a bit more reckless, as they feel that there was no punishment for dirty driving based on the outcomes of previous protests they have filed. All of these have the finger pointed at them. But as you can tell by my ratings, I don't really buy into those being the main cause of the racecraft issues on iRacing. It's time for what I feel is the main cause of declining driving standards. The answer is you. Perhaps not you specifically, but the collective you. Being all of us on the service and the mindset we bring to the race and what we're trying to achieve. My evidence for this is the popularity of 2 videos I did recently. One was around how to get lots of I rating. The other was how to get maximum safety rating. I'm a very small channel, not even a legend in my own lunchtime, but the I rating video had 1,000 views in its first day and has now had over 3,500 views. The safety rating video took 2 weeks to get to 1,000 views. This is symptomatic of what I see in various discords, on track, and in the sim racing content I consume. People by and large are infatuated more and more with their I rating than they are safety rating. By and large, people are desperate to get past the car in front and fight to keep the cars behind them. If they have a bad race, they have to chase that loss, get into the race with red mist already in place, and push harder to try and make their way through the field, and worse moves lead to worse results. People are desperate to unlock the secrets of speed. There are some excellent content creators out there that can explain these tricks better than I. They provide an amazing education on how to go fast. However, a lot of those people who are looking at that don't also go out and seek out as much information on racecraft or how to manage a race in its entirety. They're amazing when able to hot lap and hit their marks, but are unwilling to give and take or deal with curveballs that happen as well. It results in a mindset and approach to the game of if gap car, or do unto the other car before it does unto me, effectively. I rate this a solid 80 out of 100 as to the cause for the declining standards. The game is getting more and more competitive, and today's 2.5k driver would have been 4.5k 7 years ago. The collective mindset and aggressiveness on track is what's causing the issues. The only way that I see us changing this is by controlling what we can control, which is how we approach our individual race and how we behave on track. My numbers speak for themselves. I'm doing my bit. I'm also now using my channel to try and get others on board the cult of good, clean racing. I appreciate I'm in the extreme minority with this viewpoint and with this approach to solving the problem, but we must start somewhere. If you haven't watched it yet, I recommend giving my safety rating video a watch and spread the word. Tell your friends, particularly the dangerous one you don't want to be on track next to. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, and no doubt I'll be getting a number of disagreeing with me. This is to be expected. I am an old man yelling at a cloud. It's time to go have my medicine. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe on track, and I'll catch you in the next one.